Welcome back. This is going to be the first episode of a new book series called Books and Coffee. Books and Coffee. And we are going to be reading this book here, Onward by Howard Schultz with Joanne Gordon, a #1 New York Times bestseller, How Starbucks Fought for Its Life Without Losing Its Soul. Very interesting. This was gifted to me by one of my mentors and very good friends, Jeff Koga and Elaine Koga. And we received it in the mail. It was a surprise. And as always, probably like a birthday gift, right? So I was reading this. I got to the 6th page and I thought, man, this is really good. And I've been going through a lot lately in this past year, I'd say, but collectively very much a lot in this past week. And that reading up to the 6th page just really made me feel a whole lot better. So I thought, for my entrepreneur friends out there, or for those of you thinking of maybe going into business for yourself, you could probably gain some pretty cool insights from a book like this. And what we're going to do is read one chapter a day. Today we're going to read the introduction plus the first chapter today. And then just do a chapter a day. Not every single day. I don't think I could hold myself or commit to that. But I'll definitely try to do it regularly and to do this quite often until we finish this book together. So, with a sip of coffee, we are ready to begin. Ooh, that's a little hot. Okay. Long week, guys. So, see, I got that far. So let's just take that out. I'm going to read the foreword. Yes, I want to tempt you to swim against the tide. I want to pass on to others, to younger folk, the taste of hard work, for improvement, for investing savings, in the opening of a shop or workshop, and then to extend and enlarge it. Not just for the sake of making money out of it, but to give root to an idea, the idea of the vitality of things that are well made and being sold well. If a man loses his workshop, his shop, his business, he loses his way too. And that's by Aldo Lorenzi. There's a total of 33 chapters in this book. Woo, that means like a whole month of reading, so let's do it. Introduction. This date is very special to me, I said to the baristas and their store manager who were seated around me in a small restaurant. Exactly 28 years ago, on September 7th, 1982, I began working at the first Starbucks store, your store, here in the Pike Place Market. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a key. I still have mine to the front door. It was not something they expected a Starbucks chief executive officer to be carrying around, but I kept it on my keychain as a constant reminder of the responsibility I have to honor the heritage of the company and all the people who had come before me. Since it opened in 1971, the Pike Place storefront interior had remained unchanged, including the original logo. A few weeks later, the store's manager, Chad Moore, had emailed me to praise his team for achieving 8 straight weeks of record sales. Extremely impressed, I asked to take the entire team to dinner. So everyone could attend. Baristas from other locations and several district managers offered to work at Pike Place store while we celebrated. Now, on this warm Seattle evening, 27 of us had the restaurant to ourselves. Throughout the meal, I sat and visited with people at each table. The group ranged in age from 28 to 40, and the conversations were easy and lively. At one point, someone asked me to talk a bit about my own history. I could not help but smile. I grew up in the poor projects of Brooklyn, New York, paid my way through college, and moved to Seattle, Washington, with my wife, Sherry, to take a job as head of marketing for a small company called Starbucks. I spent my first weeks at Pike Place store learning all about coffee, scooping fresh beans for customers, and sealing them in small bags. But it was on a business trip to Italy that I unexpectedly discovered my true passion. As I visited small espresso bars throughout Milan and Verona, I was taken by the power that savoring a simple cup of coffee can have to connect people and create community among them. And from that moment on, I was determined to bring world-class coffee and the romance of Italian espresso bars to the United States. It was an experience I fervently believed I could enrich people's lives, but many people did not believe in my vision. Back then, Starbucks stores did not sell beverages, only whole bean and ground coffee. So I left Starbucks and started my own coffee company, Il Giornale. Il Giornale. We opened 2 espresso bars in Seattle and 1 in Vancouver, Canada. Then, in 1987, I found myself in a position, but without enough money, to buy my former employer's 6 stores and roasting plant. With the support of a few investors, I merged the 2 companies and chose to keep the name Starbucks Coffee Company by the end of that year. We had 11 stores, 100 employees, and a dream to create a national brand. In the fall of 2010, as this book goes to press, Starbucks has just posted its best financial performance in almost 40-year history, despite critics' past predictions that our best days were behind us. Yet never has Starbucks business been so healthy, primed, and profitably grow, not just by opening new stores around the world, but also through having deeper customer relationships, innovative offerings, and more places selling our products. Today, Starbucks has more than $10 billion in annual revenue and serves nearly 60 million visitors a week in 16,000 stores in 54 countries. More than 200,000 people, whom we call partners, represent Starbucks. Jesus. While these numbers are one measure of our company's success, they are not what makes Starbucks truly successful, at least not in my definition. As a business leader, my quest has never been about winning or making money. It has also been about building a great, enduring company, which has always meant trying to strike a balance between profit and social conscience. No business can do well for its shareholders without first doing well by all the people its business touches. For us, that means doing our best to treat everyone with respect and dignity, from coffee farmers and baristas to customers and neighbors. I understand that striving to achieve profitability without sacrificing humanity sounds lofty, but I've always refused to abandon that purpose, even when Starbucks and I lost our way. For decades, Starbucks shareholders and partners prospered. We were the first U.S. company to offer both comprehensive healthcare coverage as well as equity in the form of stock options to part-time workers. And we were routinely heralded as a great place to work. In 2000, I stepped down as CEO. Since Starbucks' earlier days, we have lowercased all job titles and became chairman. Moving away from day-to-day operations to focus on global strategy and expansion. In the years that followed, we accelerated our store growth, and our confidence and our stock price soared as our sales and profits increased quarter after quarter after quarter. Until the quarter, they didn't. By 2007, Starbucks had begun to fail itself. Obsessed with growth, we took our eye off operations and became distracted with the core of our business. No single bad decision or tactic or person was to blame. The damage was slow and quiet, incremental, like a single loose thread that unravels a sweater, inch by inch, decision by decision, store by store, customer by customer. Starbucks was losing some of the signature traits it had been founded on. Worse, our company's self-induced problems were being compounded by external circumstances as the world went through unprecedented change on several fronts. Most significantly, the economy was hurtling towards a cataclysmic financial crisis that would destroy trillions of dollars in personal wealth, spur a credit crunch, a housing bust, and high unemployment, and eventually topple into a full-blown global recession. At the same time, a seismic shift in consumer behavior was underway. The people became not just more cost-conscious, but also more environmentally aware, health-minded, and ethically driven. Customers were holding the companies they did business with, including Starbucks, to higher standards, And then there was the digital revolution and the sea change in how information flows, the proliferation of online media and social networks, as well as the rise in the blogosphere. Too often, the real-time worldwide exchange of opinions and news seemed to follow Starbucks' every move. Finally, an onslaught of coffee and espresso competitors from multinational corporations to independent coffee houses swept into the marketplace and targeted Starbucks, often with unapologetic vitriol. These would be daunting challenges for any company, and when it comes to Starbucks, I take every threat very personally. Starbucks is in my blood. It has such a part of me that letting it unravel simply was not an option. Too many people had worked too hard to create a company that rewarded its employees and investors, and that for years had delivered a superior product and experience. As chairman, I held myself responsible for the problems we ourselves had created, and although I did not know exactly how to address the variety of external pressures bearing down on us, I knew that without daily control of the business, I was essentially powerless to stop Starbucks from sinking. So, in January 2008, I surprised many people by returning as CEO. Onward is the story of what happened next. Cool. I neglected to read this part as I came to the idea of reading the first chapter and then spurning forth with, hey, let me document this reading. So that was cool. That was all new information for me. To hold myself over, I've had coffee from Bodhi. This is Nicaragua that I'm drinking. Very good. Roasted, weirdly, oddly, I think it's a natural process coffee, but we'll get into that later. Okay, here we are, part 1, love. As so many things begin. Chapter 1. And we're going to read chapter 1, and that'll be the end for this video. A beverage of truth. One Tuesday afternoon in February 2008, Starbucks closed all of its U.S. stores. A note posted on 7,100 locked doors explained the reason. We are taking time to perfect our espresso. Great espresso requires practice. That's why we're dedicating ourselves to honoring our craft. I have a story about chapter 1. Okay. Only weeks earlier, I'd sat in my Seattle office holding back-to-back meetings about how quickly to fix the myriad of problems that were beginning to surface inside the company. One team had to figure out how we could, in short order, retain 135,000 baristas to pour the perfect shot of espresso. Pouring espresso is an art, one that requires the barista to care about the quality of the beverage. If the barista only goes through the motions, if he or she does not care, and produces an inferior espresso that is too weak or too bitter, then Starbucks has lost the essence of what we set out to do 40 years ago. Inspire the human spirit. I realize this is a lofty mission for a cup of coffee, but this is what merchants do. We take the ordinary, a shoe, a knife, and we give it a new life, believing that what we create has the potential to touch others' lives because it's touched ours. Starbucks has always been about so much more than coffee, but without great coffee, we have no reason to exist. We looked at all the options. The team seated around me said, the only way to retain everyone by March is to close our stores all at once. I sat back in my chair. It would have been a powerful statement, but no realtor had ever done such a thing. That's a big idea, I replied, considering the risks. Starbucks would lose several $1 million in sales and labor costs that would be unavoidable. Competitors would capitalize on our absence and try to lure away our customers. Critics would gloat, cynics would smirk, and the always unpredictable media scrutiny would be humiliating. On Wall Street, our stock could sink even lower. Most dangerous of all, such a massive retraining event would be perceived as our own admission that Starbucks was no longer good enough. But if I was honest with myself, I knew that that was the truth. I pursed my lips and I looked at the team. Let's do it. there was a word that comes to mind when I think about the company and our people. That word is love. I love Starbucks because everything we've tried to do is steeped in humanity, respect and dignity, passion and laughter, compassion, community and responsibility, authenticity. These are Starbucks touchstones, the source of our pride, valuing personal connections at a time when so many people sit alone in front of screens, aspiring to build human relationships in an age when so many issues polarize so many, and acting ethically, even if it costs more. When corners are routinely cut, these are honorable pursuits at the core of what we set out to be. For more than 3 decades, coffee has captured my imagination because it is a beverage about individuals as well as community. A Rwandan farmer, 80 roast masters at 6 Starbucks plants on 2 continents, thousands of baristas in 54 countries. Like a symphony, coffee's power rests in the hands of a few individuals who orchestrate its appeal. So much can go wrong during the journey from soil to cup, and that when everything goes right, it's nothing short of brilliant. After all, coffee doesn't lie. It can't. Every sip is proof of the artistry, technical as well as human, that went into its creation. In the beginning, 2008, and I deeply wanted people to fall back in love with Starbucks, which is why even when bombarded by warnings against it, I decided to close all of our stores across America. I did not feel fear as much as a sense of the unknown, like I was flipping over a playing card. All I had was my belief that even more than perfecting our coffee, we had to restore the passion and the commitment that everyone at Starbucks needed to have for our customers. Doing so meant taking a step back before we could take many steps forward. That is this week, man. When clock struck 5:30 p.m. in cities across the United States, our customers were gently asked to leave our stores and the doors were locked behind them. Inside, our green apron baristas watched a short film our coffee expert has produced in a matter of days back in Seattle and shipped it to all 7,100 stores, along with 7,100 DVD players. What our people heard that afternoon was pure and true. If poured too fast from the spout into a shot glass, like water flowing from a faucet, the espresso's flavor will be weak and the body will be thin. A shot poured too slow means the grind is too fine and the flavor will be bitter. The perfect shot looks like honey pouring from a spoon. It is dense and tastes caramelly sweet. Oof. If the espresso was not good enough, I told everyone at the end of the video they had my permission to pour it out and begin again. And then there was the milk. For our espresso beverages, steaming milk to create a creamy, sweet consistency is crucial. Unfortunately, in the name of efficiency, our company had created some bad habits among our baristas. Not only had we trained many of them to steam the milk correctly, the process requires aerating and heating the milk in just the right fashion, but some had also been steaming large pitchers of milk prior to customers' orders, letting the pitcher sit and then re-steaming the milk as needed. But once steamed, milk begins to break down and lose some of its sweetness. We had to correct these behaviors and return to higher standards. Speaking to our people via the video, I had no script, just a heartfelt plea. It's not about the company or about the brand, I said. It is not about anyone but you. You decide whether or not it is good enough. And you have my complete support and most importantly, my faith and belief in you. Let's measure our actions by that perfect shot of espresso. Meanwhile, in city after city, news crews pointed their cameras at our closed stores as reporters interviewed baffled customers. A world without Starbucks? Asked a headline in the Baltimore Sun. In New York City, Starbucks shut down and grand pain for New Yorkers. online, opinions pro and con steamed in throughout the day, and on television, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, and others covered the closings with an odd sense of wonder, as if it had snowed in summer. Late-night comedians also roasted us. At my home in Seattle, I watched Stephen Colbert mock news report about his 3 torturous hours without a caffeinated drink, which climaxed as he doused himself in the shower with coffee, foam, and cinnamon. I went to sleep laughing for the first time in months. Not everything went well that day. As predicted, Starbucks lost money, approximately $6 million. One competitor tried to poach our customers by promoting 99-cent cups of espresso-based beverages. Some critics were brutal, insisting that by admitting we were broken, we had forever dented the Starbucks brand. But I was confident that we had done the right thing. How could it be wrong to invest in our people? In the weeks following the closures, our coffee quality scores went up and stayed there as stores made their way back to me. Like this one from a barista in Philadelphia. A gentleman came into my store this morning and told me he would like to try espresso, but was afraid it would be too bitter. So I told him that I would pull some perfect shots for him, and also make him an Americano. Together, we talked about espresso, its origins, and how to enjoy the perfect shot. He enjoyed it immensely and said he would be back for more. I think I now have a customer for life. That was proof enough for me that we had done the right thing. There are moments in our lives when we summon the courage to make choices that go against reason, against common sense, and the wise counsel of people we trust. But we lean forward nonetheless, because despite all the risks and national argument, we believe that the path that we are choosing is the right and best thing to do. We refuse to be bystanders, even if we do not know exactly where our actions will lead. This is the kind of passionate conviction that sparks romances, wins battles, and drives people to pursue dreams others wouldn't dare. Belief in ourselves and what is right catapults us over hurdles, and our lives unfold. Life is a sum of all your choices, wrote Albert Camus. Large or small, our actions forge our futures, hopefully inspiring others along the way. Ultimately, closing our stores was most powerful in its symbolism. It was a galvanizing event for Starbucks partners, the term we use for our employees, a stake in the ground, and helped reestablish some of our emotional attachment and trust we had squandered during our years of focusing and hyper-growth. A bold move that I stand by today. It sent a message that decisiveness was back at Starbucks. No doubt, after that Tuesday, thousands of Starbucks espresso shots were poured like honey, but a symbolic act of 3 hours of education would not solve our mounting problems. We had a long, long way to go, further than I'd imagined, and I returned as CEO. In the winter of 2008, the fight began for our survival. What we faced was nothing less than a crucible, and I spent the past year preparing for it. Woo-wee! Okay, that was chapter 1. It's a little bit harder to read out loud than in your head. That was a really telling first chapter. To me, that spoke, that kind of touched me the most when reading that was our company, Kevin Levu Photography. We focused a lot on growth. What does it mean to grow? The fact that we've been in business for 10 years. The sort of mounting pressure to live up to this expectation that we had built ourselves, just like Starbucks, creating problems for themselves, leaning on efficiency rather than quality, leaning on being fast than being high quality. And it's not to say that we're not always conscious of it, but I do feel there are times that we can do things better as a company in terms of coming back to the standard of excellence. And it's hard to do that when you have more than one person who is representing your company or putting forward or saying, if I could use their words, if you have more than one person deeming whether something is good enough or not, everybody's standard can skew a little. And I've definitely been experiencing that in the last year or so because things have just been so turbulent. So I'm really enjoying this read so far. I hope you guys are too. Join me for the next time that we read chapter 2 together here on the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you in the comments and have a great rest of the day. I'm going to finish my coffee. My throat is dry.